So I've been using this laptop for a long time now. I bought this in 2015 and over the years it has just done a pretty decent job. However, over the years things have changed a lot. Videos are now 4K, intelligence is now artificial, and because of all of that, I thought now is a good time to get an upgrade. I looked up some laptops on the net and the prices they were charging were outrageous. Enter the NUC. The NUC, or the next unit of computing, is something that Intel came up a few years back, and it's essentially a very compact computer. So what you're seeing here is basically the computer. It's just a bare bones kit. It just has your motherboard and the CPU, and that's about it. No memory, no RAM, no nothing. Just the ports, the motherboard and the CPU. It has a decent number of ports: Ethernet, USB 3s, HDMI, Thunderbolt 1 over here, Thunderbolt 2 over here, and another USB and the microphone jack and the power button. And that's about it. So that's the NUC. In the pack, what you also get is some literature. There is a VESA stand. The VESA stand basically lets you attach this to the back of your computer if it has a VESA stand, and you also get your charger along with the box. This is all that you get in the pack: the VESA stand, the charger and the NUC itself. So who should get a NUC? First of all, a NUC is not mobile. It's not something that can move around too much because you need a display to go along with it, along with your keyboard and your mouse and all of that. Therefore, a NUC is for somebody who basically wants a desktop computer, not a laptop computer. This laptop computer has been sitting over there. I'm not removed it from that place for a long time. And for me, therefore, a NUC makes a lot of sense. A NUC is compact. However, it does require its own power supply. It does not have a battery of its own. So therefore, a UPS would be required. That's number two. However, a NUC is also very upgradable. You can add memory, RAM, an external GPU if you want to, but that's going to be an expensive thing. But all of these can be added onto it. Now, unlike a laptop is not upgradable, and that was a major problem that I had with my laptop. In my laptop, it was 8 GB memory, and that is all that I could do. In 2020, I did go and add an SSD, which maybe helped me use it for a little longer, but that was about it as far as upgradability of laptops go. And last but not the least, if I go and buy a laptop with the configuration that I had in mind, it would easily cross 1 lakh rupees. So therefore, if you are looking for something a little more affordable, a NUC again makes a lot of sense. Plus, it lets you add RAM and SSDs as you want. There is no problem of upgradability. That's what a NUC is all about. And now I will show you how to go about setting up my NUC. So as I said, the NUC does not have any RAM or memory of its own, and therefore I had to buy myself SSD, NVMe SSD, which is far faster than your normal SATA SSD, and also my RAM. So I went with 32 GB RAM and a 1 TB SSD, which I think would be a lot of RAM and a lot of SSD for the price for what I have in mind. I also got an extra SSD SATA drive as well, just to be sure, okay, so that I don't have to add anything in the coming days. Next up, I'll show you how to go about opening and putting all of this memory and RAM together, which is what you're going to do next. So this is what your NUC looks like. 4 screws at the bottom. There is an arrow which points out to the front so that you know how to put it back when you have to put it back. I'll quickly So Crucial has a website of their own wherein you can go and select the NUC that you have, and it will tell you all the compatible memory, RAM and SSDs that are available from Crucial, which I thought was a very good idea, because otherwise you have to keep guessing as to whether the memory that you have chosen is compatible with your NUC or not. So Crucial has done that thing right, and I think I've gone ahead and bought everything from Crucial. Coming up next, okay, now we have the NUC open over here. This is RAM slot number 1 at the bottom, RAM slot number 2 here, and you have your M2 slot over here. Okay, and then you have a SATA which is over here underneath this. First up, I'll take the memory, 32 GB RAM. It takes the SODIMM, small outline DIMM RAM, DDR4, and this will go in before we can put in the NVMe, we'll have to remove this screw, which is what I'm doing right now. There's a slot here that will have to match up with the slots in here. Then it will just sit there in place. That's the RAM. That's your NVMe SSD. And finally, this is my normal SATA SSD, which will go in here. This is what your SSD looks like. It slides in from the side and just fits into place like this. It's a very snug fit. And finally, SSD number 1 here, SSD number 2 here, and your RAM over here. That's about it. Again, make sure that the front is actually pointing to the front, and this is how it will go. Screw all of it back in. Finally, your NUC is ready. It can go behind your monitor like this, but since I have a arm holding the monitor already, you cannot use it here. So I'll be keeping it down something like this. Next up, I'll quickly disconnect everything from my laptop and connect it to the NUC. First one is the HDMI, which goes here. Next up is the Ethernet, goes in, which goes so, and so that's all the connections made to the NUC, and as you can see, it's tiny. Next up, I will plug in my Windows installation drive and boot. So this is the power brick that I got with the NUC, but you can see I don't have an actual plug. Power supply from my earlier Dell laptop and plugging it over here, and it should work pretty fine. And the NUC is booting up for the very first time. And the Windows installation has now begun. Now as it gets installed, I'll just show you how much of a difference that is going to make. So on your right is the laptop and on the left is your NUC, and you can see the NUC has such a small footprint. So let's wait for this installation to get over, and I'll catch you back once it's done. And now it's time to name this machine, and I'm going to call it the Tesseract. A small cube, but a powerful cube, and therefore Tesseract. Now we'll just run the CPU benchmark. And the benchmark scores are here. At the top you can see the NUC, and it beats the laptop at the bottom by almost double on the single core score. And on the multi-core score, it beats the laptop by almost 3 times. Overall, I think the NUC has been a great upgrade. It is compact, it is affordable, and it is also upgradable in the future. The only thing that it loses out to the laptop is on mobility. If this is something that makes sense to you, do try out a NUC as a next upgrade. Till then, bye-bye.